Okay, so for this deep dive, we're looking at something really interesting. Stephen King's novella, The Life of Chuck, and the new film adaptation by Mike Flanagan. It seems to mix this feeling of, like, apocalyptic dread with something surprisingly joyful. We've gathered some thoughts from articles on King, on Flanagan, and the film's reception. The idea is to kind of unpack why this story, set against the world ending, manages to hit this note of humanism and joy. We'll look at King's original angle, the film's approach, and, what people are saying about it.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you consider Stephen King's whole history with movie adaptations. His first editor apparently said King has a movie camera in his head. Which makes sense, right? There are, over 50 films from his work, and King himself loves movies. Generally, he's pretty hands-off. There's that famous quote, "If you can't say something nice, keep your mouth shut," although, well, he definitely spoke up about Kubrick's The Shining, calling it that big, beautiful Cadillac with no engine inside. But with The Life of Chuck, sources say he's been unusually protective and excited, which kind of tracks when you think about King not just as a horror guy, but as someone really focused on character first. He uses stories to process, as he puts it, dark stuff. And The Life of Chuck feels like peak King the humanist. You've got this apocalypse looming, sure, but the real focus is on things like light, love, empathy, finding meaning, finding joy, even when a life is, cut short. It reminds me a bit of how it is ultimately about friendship, or The Stand is about people finding connection in crisis.
Right, and picking up on that humanist thread, Mike Flanagan is obviously familiar with King's world, having done Doctor Sleep and Gerald's Game. He took a really unconventional route with this adaptation. The film's structure is pretty unique. It's told in 3 acts, but backwards, reverse chronological order. So you start near the end and work your way back through Chuck's life. And different actors play Chuck in different periods. There isn't really one single main character driving things in the usual way. Flanagan was apparently very clear he wanted to capture the tone of those beloved, more human King adaptations. Things Stand By Me, The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, less straight horror, more heart.
And there's another layer here, a really poignant one. The film is dedicated to Scott Wampler. He was a close friend of Flanagan's, and actually the interviewer in one of the articles we looked at. He sadly passed away quite young. Wampler even makes a brief appearance in the film itself, looking full of life. So this very real, very personal context of loss gets woven right into the film's themes about looking back on a life, dealing with death, finding those moments of joy, even when things are incredibly sad. It definitely makes the film's earnestness feel, particularly affecting for people connected to Scott.
The film's definitely made an impact. It got a lot of positive buzz, winning the People's Choice Award at TIFF, and that award has this incredible track record. I think it was 15 of the last 16 winners got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, and 5 actually won. A lot of the praise really echoes what you were saying, comparing it favorably to those classic, heartfelt King movies. Flanagan also mentioned that being independently financed probably helped it, allowed them to stick with that unusual structure and personal focus without maybe the usual studio pressures.
But, it's important to show the other side, too. There was definitely some strong criticism highlighted in one source. This view described the film as having, quote, insipid sentimentality, and called it taxing, cloying. Pretty strong words. The main thrust of this critique seems to be that, the world is ending in the background, but the film's intense focus on one individual's inner multitudes feels like an escapist fantasy of a rabid individualist. The argument is that maybe this focus on personal experience kind of minimizes the need for, collective action against huge problems like fascism or climate collapse. The critic even pointed to a specific line apparently downplaying climate change in the apocalypse as feeling particularly out of step right now.
So it's quite a picture, isn't it? You have the story from King, the master of horror, but it's really about connection and meaning at the end of everything. Then Flanagan adapts it with this bold structure, this deeply personal element, and the reaction is kind of all over the place, from huge acclaim to some pretty sharp criticism. It clearly makes you think about what matters when facing the absolute worst.
And that leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Given all the real-world anxieties we have about these massive global challenges that demand collective responses, does a story like The Life of Chuck, which really doubles down on celebrating the individual journey and finding personal joy, does it ultimately offer a useful perspective for navigating tough times? Or does it maybe risk feeling a bit detached, like a kind of escapism that doesn't fully grapple with the scale of the problems we face together? Something to consider.